day. Close both eyes and focus on pain. Blows my mind alone in my brain. I smell smoke from all of those flames. Fell in holes and hope for my grave. They told me smell the roses, but I burned the whole bouquet.
Tom, you'll never win the fight against your haters long as I listen. Cause I read every single comment that you try missing. Then recite them in your mind and memorize disses. I'm a giant, Thomas, why are you trying to fight with me?
I'm different, don't care about a height difference, I might win it. Show up to a gunfight, knife swinging.
I am the darkness.
Yeah, I got night vision. I need to do this by myself. I told you twice already exactly how I felt. I'm the best rapper ever, I don't wanna be great. If they're the best, then I'm better, don't you make no mistake. Cause I'm the gold, feel it in my bones until I'm a ghost. I'm the one who pulls the sword out of the stone. I'm the best rapper ever, I don't care what you say. I'm Da Vinci, I'm forever, I'm designed for the fame. Cause I'm the gold, get the kid a throne. Everybody knows, only voices that I'm hearing are my own. Best ever.
Aaron Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey there, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you. It's been a minute. Thanks for joining me. It's, man, what day are we on? We're April 8th. And the fact that we haven't had to talk about tornadoes for almost 2 weeks or 3 weeks is crazy for this time of the year. But hey, I'll take it, right? Well, tonight that's going to change, unfortunately. I do foresee a tornado, possibly 2 in Oklahoma for tomorrow. So we're going to talk about that in more detail and see how things are going to progress, where it's going to be, who's got the threat, what else we're going to see over the state, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for joining me. Come to the right place. You're at AT's Weather. Be sure to like, share, follow, all that kind of stuff. Facebook's changed a lot of things lately, so you can no longer like a page that you follow. You now just follow it or you don't. So it's changed your settings, and in the process, it probably also changed to where you don't get notified. So it's changed your notification settings. So if you want to do always or video or whatever, you're going to have to go in there and fiddle with that. So make sure you do that as well. That goes for any groups that you follow. Of course, YouTube, they're pretty much the same. Twitter and Periscope, they've changed. So I broadcast live directly to Twitter, even though I was always through Twitter. It would always go simultaneously to Periscope. It was a back-end way of doing it. So they just cut out the middleman, Periscope, and just left it to Twitter. So that shouldn't have changed much. Okay, so with all the formalities out of the way, let's get into the details, shall we? And by the way, I saw some love tonight, and I see the congrats for the neutrals. How do you say that word? the wedding. So thanks for that. And I see some stars out there too, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here's a look at the severe weather threat for tomorrow. This is for Friday. Now, you do notice Oklahoma City is barely in the mix. This is from the National Weather Service. This is where they've got the green line painted here through Oklahoma City. And then it's got the yellow for slight and then enhanced down here in Southeast. Now, I'm going to qualm about this a little bit. I do think we're going to see, pick a better color here. I do think we're going to see some thunderstorms with some hail in them in this little vicinity here. So you could technically say it's either a slight risk, as basically where I would move that. So this would be moved up into this region. And then the enhanced risk down here is based off the map. I would move that back toward Ada. And then keep it in this region of Oklahoma. So that's how I would adjust it. We'll see. They're going to look at the new data tonight, and they may or may not jive with me, but that's okay. But anyway, so that's a look at what they've got for the graphics so far with the tornado potential anchor down here in southeast Oklahoma. So it does not have it here in central Oklahoma for Oklahoma City. Now, the Storm Prediction Center continues this risk all the way east through Arkansas, Louisiana, northeast Texas, eastbound from there. So if you live eastern sides of Oklahoma on into some of those surrounding states, you're going to see these thunderstorms move in your area. A large area of a light tornado aspect too, this little brown shaded line here. It extends from southeast Oklahoma to northeastern Texas and just keeps on going. So in other words, it's not an overly huge risk, but what they are saying is there's likely going to be a few tornadoes embedded in this large geographical area, which isn't saying much for spring. You kind of would expect that. So let's take a look at the radar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the really short condensed version here. I know you're like, what? AT condensed? No. For reals. This is real short and condensed. And then if you want to stick around, I'll get to some of the hows and whys and whats, fors. But anyway, so here's a look at, let's start you off in the morning. Clouds, a few showers. We're going to have real light sprinkle stuff, nothing heavy. It's just the return of moisture is what it's going to be. For the first part of the day, we have plenty of sunshine mixed in there as well. But then in the afternoon, we're going to start to see some thunderstorms bubble up here, especially about 4 o'clock over central and northern Oklahoma. That will be the first place it'll go. And the reason for that is we're going to have a cold front moving into Eden when this starts to fire. And this front will be making its way quickly to the south and east. So what that does is it has a tendency to undercut the storms that do develop. So all you can typically get out of storms here in central Oklahoma from this case is going to be hail. All right, and we're talking typical, dimes, nickels, quarters, $half maybe. So nothing bigger than that. So it shouldn't do any widespread damage, but will be technically severe hail. So just kind of watch out for that. Now this line of storms kind of congeals and moves into central Oklahoma through the Oklahoma City metro area, probably right around 5 o'clock through the 6 o'clock hour. Quickly moving out of the metro. So about a 2-hour window there for your drive time. So for basically just from Let's give it a 30-minute window from 4:30 on the west side, northwest side, to 6:30 on the southeast side. That's kind of how that should break down roughly in that time frame based off the latest data. Then you can see the storms kind of light up there around Tulsa in the evening hours from 7, and then you can see them kind of developing all the way down south into southeastern Oklahoma toward McAllister. And you do see on this particular model what we call those little helicity tracks, these little tags that come out of these. There's even some up here. Now, a lot of times it just indicates hail. It doesn't always indicate a tornado. Other conditions have to be there for that to happen. And in northern Oklahoma, northeast, I don't foresee the tornado aspect, but I do see some hail that might, be maybe as big as golf balls in that particular case. And by 11 o'clock, it's out of the state. So that's a look at the latest high-resolution NAM model. Now, what I'm going to show you, and that's the timing, and then you can see that's it. So western Oklahoma doesn't get anything. It's just kind of what it is. Now, we'll show you two things here before I get into the real data. All right, so this is a simplified look at this. And we have to have instability, right? You got to have moisture and heat and humidity, all that jazz. You have to have wind shear turning with height. Well, that best parameter here, according to the model, is anchored from the I-35 corridor and I-40 in this quadrant here for the late afternoon and evening. And it doesn't last long. It's short-lived. As we go through time, it kind of gets scooted south and east quickly, and everything kind of diminishes with time. So the best tornado threat, in other words, is likely going to be probably before 8 or 9 o'clock. And after that, I think it's done. So here's, and that's important. It depends on where the storms are at that particular point in time. Now, I do like the tech model during this time of the year. I like to lean on it sometimes when it talks about severe weather. I'm going to show you the difference here. And this I'll have to blow up here to give you a better view. So this is this spot right here. This is Oklahoma County. So you do see these little helicity tracks, which indicate some hail. So some hail likely here in Oklahoma County and points northward, Guthrie and Stillwater, and some of these thunderstorms that develop. But remember, they'll be undercutted by the front, so no threat for tornadoes expected with these. There'll be some bubbling up of showers and storms elsewhere for that later part of the afternoon. But as we go into, let's go to the 6 o'clock we're in the 6 o'clock hour. This is interesting. Now, this model likes to develop a supercell storm out ahead of all the action down here southeast Oklahoma. This is Pontotoc, right around Ada. It's got a nice helicity track to it. Now, this is the one that would concern me in this environment because it's a sweet spot. It's kind of maximized in that little area where we like to see the instability and the shear come together. So if I were to foresee a tornado tomorrow, it would likely be in this region. So if you want to get a zoomed up view of what that would be, here's Oklahoma City. So we're going to jot down between Norman, Purcell, Pauls Valley, take you east to Ada, around Bing, Allen, Stonewall. So this is the most likely region for that particular storm to develop in that area, which would likely encounter tornado-producing indices. And then anything that would develop, say, in this corner would then move kind of in a southeastward fashion. So it's going to be hard to say exactly where it forms because models aren't that good. They kind of tell you the general area to look, how they like to favor the ingredients and whatnot. And so that right now is what it looks like on the model. So if you live in that area, just be extra careful tomorrow. Make sure your storm shelter is cleared out. You just might have to use it during the late afternoon and early evening. So again, that was here's 7 o'clock. You can see it's still ongoing there south of McAllister. And then at, let's see, 8 o'clock it's still going. 9 o'clock is kind of clustered out. It's now down to southern Oklahoma along the Red River. At that point, the tornado threat should be gone. Now, that said, just because the tornado threat is gone and the storms are still going, the problem in that area of our state is lack of low-level radar coverage. And you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? So then this is where I'm getting to the details here. So we're getting to some talking. All right, so hang with me. Let me go to, was it the NAM I wanted? I think it was a NAM I wanted. So let me see here. If it wasn't, it'll be the her. So let me pick randomly this spot down here. And I was looking at some stuff earlier, and then, okay, so yeah, it was this. That's not the one I looked at, though. Hold on, I gotta find it. Didn't have it loaded. It was probably the her. So let me do the her. So the her is our short-term, high-resolution model that we've got. Supposedly our best one, if you were to look at it that way. And then that would give you, what our best bet outcome is. And it actually has more of a line of storms than it does have a chance of tornadoes. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a brief window here in this kind of southeastern section between McAllister, and there's a little sweet spot, I think, down there that something could happen. But the other thing, and this is not what we looked at earlier, but this is okay. What this does show in southeast Oklahoma is a really good shear profile here, turning with height. It also has good instability, low lifting condensation levels, possible hazard type of tornado. So, it would make sense if something were to happen down there during that sweet spot of the few hours that it has to work with. Once it gets to dark, bets are kind of all off on that deal. But in the short term, that's what it looks like. Now, I think it was probably the NAM model I was looking at, and it may have been a different time frame. Let me look one more time, because there was something I wanted to see down here. Was it down and maybe farther southeast? Let's see. If it was, I'm not going to worry about it. It was like another little learning thing I wanted to go through. Okay, well, I can't find it. It's not important. All right, we'll move on. So anyway, that's kind of the focus point for tomorrow, late afternoon and evening. So here in Oklahoma City, 4:30, 5 o'clock, you see some storms build up, a little bit of hail falls. Don't be surprised. So earlier, I think I looked at some data a few days ago, and it had looked like it was paltry. In other words, hardly a drop of rain. Basically what we had Tuesday night. Well, that's changed, obviously. That's why I'm here doing this live update. So a little bit more than paltry for some of you. Haily. So keep that in mind. It'll be a brief downpour, then it's over quick. So it won't last long. Matter of fact, let's look at rainfall amounts out of this little deal. And the rainfall amounts will be more substantial, obviously, in eastern Oklahoma than they will in central, just because of the timing and when the time the storms really get going. Matter of fact, this model has basically everything that's measurable just in long I-35 in the north, otherwise mainly eastern third of the state, where you can pick up a half an inch to an inch of some of these heavier supercell type thunderstorms that do develop. And that's some good news there if you need some rain, and we do. Okay, so let me show you the other thing here, and that's temperatures over the stretch. A little different here for April, not what you're used to, and this has actually changed in a cooling trend over the last few days. It was a nice mild trend, and each run's gotten a little colder. The seasonal outlooks continue to get trend colder as well. So what does this mean for you guys? All right, well, it means a little cool for our mid-April time frame during the day, but nice. All right. However, nighttime, even though it's not a frost and it's not a freeze on most of these nights, there shouldn't be a frost. There, maybe a touch and go on a couple of the coldest with very, very light winds, low-lying valleys, that kind of deal. Clear skies. Sometimes you get a little light frost, and that is on the table, but what I'm kind of leaning at is anything that's cold sensitive. In other words, there are things that don't like to be below 50 degrees that you plant. So if those are some of those that you have, you can either bring them in the house or the garage, do the whole day in, day out thing, or just leave them in your house for a while under a sunny window. So anything like that's sensitive, just make sure you prepare for those. Otherwise, get out there and plant overall. Now, you're saying, Aaron, that's great, but when does the real severe weather season start? When are we talking about, storms every day on the dry line And when is, we're going to be having tornado threats almost every day? It's a good question. It's never guaranteed, but it is springtime, and so we do eventually get into that kind of a pattern. So let's take a look, and then I'm going to turn you loose, because I pretty much have said most of what there is to say, and I may do a lunchtime live tomorrow at lunchtime, depending on how things go, how the data looks, if it looks any different, if I can, give a little bit better information than I've already given you for tonight. But let's go look big time upstairs. We're going to move this into the national view. National. Let's try that again. All right. The pattern has to change. So let's look at the pattern. So this will be the jet stream pattern. The colors indicate the storm systems that move on through. So for example, here's one here that's loaded up here across the Midwest, and here's a new one kind of coming in across the Northwest, and in between, not much action. Okay, so let's see where the action is. Well, I'm going to go through time here. This is Friday through Saturday. This is where our storm system comes in. It kind of scoots Oklahoma to the north into Kansas. So that's where most of the energy is. But we got some favorable environment here to produce what we're going to talk about, or what we did talk about. All right, that one moves on by. Let's see, we're in a zonal flow here toward the middle of April. Now, sometimes you can get some storms in the zonal flow. It's subtle. It's not a brute forcing deal. We have to get the instability here, but there is a broad troughiness, and that sets the stage where you can get these little upper level disturbances that ride underneath it and kind of ripple through. So that's a promising setup if you're wanting some storms or at least some rainfall. That's one of the ingredients that we need, and that pattern stays with us. Let's see, here's the 18th of April. Then it kind of changes a bit. There's a little mini storm system there on the 21st. Things get really chaotic and hectic. The model wants to shut it down with the big ridge here. Trough out here, double trough barrel out here, which means these little storm systems send their energy up to the north, right over the ridge, and then back down again. And that protects it. So that's why it's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks. We were in that pattern. So the models are trying to change back to a stormy pattern, at least for a little while, for the middle to late period of April. But you remember those temperatures that we saw into the 60s? Well, we got to have another missing ingredient, and that is the Gulf of Mexico. Is it going to be open for business? Meaning, are we going to have the moisture from the Gulf moving in here with adequate shear? So let's take a look, and we're going to go through time. Let's see what we got here. So here's the little brief shot we've got. It's a limited brief shot to work with for tomorrow afternoon, like I talked about, and then it's gone. It's a pretty strong front that moves in. I can show you temperatures if you want, but otherwise, look, man, I'm in the mid-April, April 15th, 16th, 17th. Where is the Gulf? It is shut down. So what that means is we get cold fronts after cold front. So even though the upper pattern is slightly favorable, the actual bare bones, what we need to work with, is missing. Why is it missing? Well, we're getting cold fronts. It's nice. It keeps it cooler, but it shuts the Gulf down. All right, so let me go through time here with the temperature profile. So, for example, let's see, we got, like I said, a lot of 40s at night, 60s during the day here. I'm just going to run through this through time. There's some 70s that sneak in. That's kind of I like the 70s. This is my kind of weather. I like that California weather here. That's why so many Californians moved to Oklahoma now, because we've got the California weather every now and then. It's not true, but, it was interesting. Let's see, we'll go through time here. And man, it is, just overall cool. There's really no even heat, nothing. There we go. It finally starts to heat up there in South Texas. There's some 80s. That's on the 23rd of the month. And then that's the 24th of the month, finally getting some 80s back in here, some 70s. So at least we're finally warming up, but we still don't have the juice. Juice, you can measure that by dew point values. See where the dark green is and blue? That's what you want for storms. So we do have that briefly for tomorrow. But then look. Oh, there's a little bit of juice. Oh, but then it gets shoved away. Okay, now it's down to Texas and hanging down there. Okay, here comes some juice trying to roll back in here. Oh, and it gets shoved away. And what shoves it away? Cold fronts. Okay, and then we got some juice here at the end toward the 24th. All right, so that's as far in time that model goes. Let's go to the climate model. Climate model. Look, man, you can flip a coin and sometimes beat the climate model, but we're just going to for giggles, see what it's going to do. We'll just show, we can only show the nation view. Okay. All right, I'm just going to look at the Cape, which is a pure instability. In other words, the heat and moisture. All right, we knew it was coming first Friday. All right, we already know it's going to be bubbling up off and on down in South Texas, close to the Gulf, but never quite getting it back in Oklahoma. Come on, there it is. All right, what day is that? That's the 27th of the month. Okay, so if this verifies, that's the first time we will actually be seeing dry line talk out here in the Texas Panhandle and having some of those storms moving to far western Oklahoma by dark. All right, well, that's that deal. Where it's most of the action is out west. Okay, so here we go. Now you get some purple in the map. That's a lot of instability. All right, that's on the 28th of the month. There's the 29th. So there we go. The pattern's back here for a little while. Now this pattern here, let's see, what day was that? That was the end of April. So the night of May 1st, morning of. It shifted more eastward into central Oklahoma, so that might be our big day to get some big storms around here. Let's see, that kind of hangs around for another day on the 1st, but then it gets pushed into Texas, comes back north for the 4th, so there you go. So if you've been wondering where is severe weather season, according to the long-range climate models, we're going to get a little taste of it toward the end of April and the beginning of May, and then after that, it may shut down again toward the middle of May. Now, climatology-wise, the middle of May is usually our 4th of July when it comes to tornadoes and biggest of the severe weather here in central Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens long term. I just want to kind of give you a little, teaser as to what may be coming up down the line since you guys hung with me there. You got a little bonus coverage. How about that? Okay, well, listen, I'm going to get out of here for tonight. I do want to thank you as always for your support, for the stars, for the love, for the follows, sharing, liking, commenting, all that stuff. I see you guys on YouTube. I love it when you guys comment. Shannon from Northwest Oklahoma City. Brian's in the house. Jim always from Mustang. Vanessa saying congratulations. Pop the cork. Time to drink some more champagne. I'm down for that. We should have a champagne hour. Let's do it. Let's see. I'm going to go to my patrons here real quick, and I'm going to try to think of something I want to tell you before I sign off, because there was something. Maybe it'll come to me. Good to see you guys on the patron page, and then go to the main page. By the way, about every Wednesday, I do a Facebook post on a weather station. If you're interested in getting a weather station, if you have some weather weenies or some weather gurus or just some hungry weather savants, in the house, got a weather station, you can get them. And then so I usually post that on Wednesdays to get you the link if you're looking for it. And then also Bonfire. And I've got a new store. So if you heard of Teespring, they've changed it to Spring because they're not doing just t-shirts anymore. They finally got out of that. Now they're doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm processing and building that store. So look for an announcement on that here coming up soon. Let's see. Oh, Manny's getting married on the 24th. Ooh, she wants good news. It's a little ways away there, Manny. You're going to have to get back to me. But that is the time where the models are starting to change things up. So but I'm sure it'll be fine for you. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to have to run, but I see you guys. Esther, Kelly, send you some love here for tonight for the stars. Let's see, Camber, I see you there, sending some stars. I'm going to see if I can scroll up further. Jared, also in the house, sending some love. Ike, nice. Philip in the house also. Appreciate the Facebook stars. There's something else that Facebook started, and I don't even know what it is. It's called banners or something, or streamers. I don't know what that is, so you'll have to ask Facebook, but it showed up on my phone when I started this thing. Bart in the house with some stars. Carrie, thank you. Leslie, I gotcha. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, as always. All right, listen, I'm out. We'll do again live maybe at lunchtime tomorrow. Otherwise, if I do foresee a supercell tornadic storm develop, down, in southern or southeastern Oklahoma, I'll be talking about that. Oh, that was the one thing I was going to mention. I got lost in trying to find the map I was trying to find. But real quick, a lot of times you'll have tornado warnings in southeast Oklahoma that don't verify, and that's because, all right, you got a storm. Let's say this is ground, all right? This is the ground. This is the bottom of the storm that you can see with your eyes, all right? And the tornado's in between. Well, unfortunately, in southeast Oklahoma, the radar beam scans this storm up here. It doesn't even know what's happening down here. So because of that, the Weather Service has no choice but to go play it safe and keep tornado warnings going a lot of times because it doesn't know what's really happening, especially if there's no ground truth from eyeballs. So a lot of times you get tornado warnings southeast Oklahoma, and it may not actually necessarily mean there's a tornado. It just, sometimes you have to watch the wording. If the wording says Doppler radar indicated, that's one thing. That's probably likely may not be happening just because of the issue I talked about, limitations. If it says spotter indicated, emergency management, whatever, okay, there's your confirmation for sure. So it always helps to have storm chasers and emergency management in the field to confirm what the radar can't see all the time. So sometimes in southeast Oklahoma you can get those warnings that may not verify. So if you get upset, well, there was no tornado, we were under a tornado warning for 30 minutes and it never touched down. Well, that's a good thing for one, obviously. But I'm telling you, that's why sometimes you get those warnings that don't quite verify. And there's really no way around it other than to build more radar stations, and those are very expensive. So don't look for that to happen anytime soon. We got to spend money on other things that are so much more important. Don't even get me started at wasted government spending. But, I'm biased because I'm in the weather world, and I'd like to have radars everywhere, but that's me. All right, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great night. Sleep well. We'll talk again later.